killer whale, a name to strike terror into seafarers in all the oceans of the world. The Romans called it Orca, meaning the demon from hell. It's really a dolphin, the largest of its group. A male can weigh up to 8 tons, and his dorsal fin alone stands 6 feet tall. Although they do not prey on humans or indiscriminately attack marine life, there is something inherently terrifying about such huge, efficient, and deadly animals. In July 1964, a killer whale had been shot to serve as the model for a life-size sculpture for Vancouver Aquarium, but it didn't die. Instead, it was towed by a line attached to a harpoon in its back to Vancouver Harbor and held captive in a makeshift pen. People were amazed at its docile behavior. Thousands visited the harbor to gaze at the whale circling in the pool. She was dubbed Moby Doll.
And she's making various sounds which you're recording. Could you give us a listen to these?
Yeah, certainly. These are made with a hydrophone in the water.
Do you have any idea just what these noises might be in response to?
Oh, they may be curiosity on the part of the whale. They might be a sign of nervousness on her part, or she may be calling out into the water for others of her kind.
I gather it'll be some time before you can classify these words and make this dictionary, which you go into the various.
Yes, it will. But I intend to try and group these various sounds into their separate groups and play these back to the whale and see what response she makes to each particular noise.
After 88 days in captivity, Moby Doll died. In Georgia Strait, subsequent research has gradually built up a portrait of killers, not as terrifying predators, but as sociable, vocal mammals, living a complex family life in groups called pods. This is where Moby Doll was harpooned over 20 years ago, and this is his surviving family. the sea to watch whales. Today, they're a branch of show business, one of the top box office draws. Of the 127 wild killers which have been caught and taken into captivity since 1961, just 35 are alive today. calf was named Baby Shamu after her father. She took her first breath unaided, and soon she was swimming strongly round the pool. With another female in close attendance, just as in the wild, Kandu was evidently relaxed and confident enough to feed Baby Shamu from the start. Before her first birthday, Baby Shamu was taking part in the public display along with her parents. She didn't have to learn the routine. As a baby whale, she naturally follows the adults. From a business point of view, Baby Shamu is undoubtedly a monumental asset. The influence of public sympathy has proved a powerful asset in this remote bay in northern Vancouver Island. Near the bay, called Robson Bight, is a small cove known to whale scientists as the Rubbing Beach. It is a magical place and the site of some very mysterious behavior. Some visit when they happen to be passing. Others journey from far away, making straight for the cove. All of them, when they arrive, rub themselves luxuriously against the smooth pebbles of the bottom. Underwater, their ghostly shapes glide out of the gloom with leisurely but deliberate movements. Explanations have ranged from the hygienic to the mystical. Other researchers speak of sexual connection. One theory is that the acoustic configuration of the bay is attractive to them in some way humans cannot perceive. No one quite knows what this behavior means. That it's something special is evident from the whales' voices. Nowhere else do they make sounds like this. 1979, a new road opened up the north of the island to logging. The timber is being extracted for building materials and for wood pulp to make paper. Clear felled hillsides nearby are a grim indication of what could happen to Robson Bight. Already, the unique sounds which killer whales make here have a continuous background of noise, the sound of the propellers of the logging boats making their way to the sawmills. To understand whales better, scientists have started to record and analyze whale sounds. They found their contact calls are unique to each pod. It is clear that these sets of signals, called dialects, are passed down from generation to generation. Only two groups of mammals have the ability to imitate and learn sounds. One is dolphins, including the killer whale, and the other is humans. They find their prey by echolocation, a sophisticated form of sonar that is so accurate that even in murky water they can tell the difference between salmon and cod from 60 yards. Trying to interpret what the whales are saying is a challenge. Their world is so different that the dream of translating their language into human terms remains remote. At regular intervals, the whole pod dives for 5 minutes at a time. The dreamy calls seem to coordinate these dives, keeping the pod close together at all times. But why this togetherness is important to an animal with no natural enemies is another of the killer whale's mysteries. When the pod makes contact with salmon, the voices and the behavior change abruptly. The pod splits up into small groups, which charge off in what appears to be an uncoordinated scramble for food. The calls may simply be excitement, or they may also serve to keep the whales in contact with each other. Individuals can wander miles from the group in the exhilaration of the chase. Whale watchers all down the west coast of North America know another, more ominous type of killer whale. The scientists call them transients. They are known to differ in several ways from the sociable, fish-eating residents. For one thing, their small groups travel almost silently. They feed primarily on other marine mammals. Their main prey has ears. Typically, they sneak around headlands, searching bays for unwary seals. The transients are the largest and fiercest predators in the sea. Here, in Baja California, a group of them were seen attacking a young blue whale. A violent and bloody scene often reported, but never seen on television. At Punta Norte, in the far south of Argentina, the whales patrol the water's edge in search of fish. This particular family group is here throughout the year. It has 3 members, a female, the calf, and a large adult male with a slightly curved fin. The male regularly comes inshore to hunt for fish, while the other 2 wait a quarter of a mile out to sea. Periods of cruising along the beach alternate with violent activity as the whale locates his prey. The gulls hover around looking for scraps. The peak of their success is in March and April, when the growing pups are becoming adventurous, but are still naive. Hanging in the water immediately in front of the whale's jaws looks foolhardy, but the adult sea lions know to an inch where the edge of the rock is underwater, and the whale won't or can't cross the line. The adults know the score. It's the inexperienced youngsters which are at risk. The male takes his prey out into deeper water, where his mate and their calf are waiting to be fed. As the young males approach the end of their first year, they spar to determine their pecking order for future seasons. The conflicts are ritualized. They're rehearsals for the real thing in 2 or 3 years' time, when the senior bull will have the right to mate with every female he can defend. They also tend to distract his attention from immediate events. The male carries the still living seal out to his family 400 yards offshore. Observations suggest that the young whale is often given the seal to kill as part of its training for life in these waters.